If you believe that aliens are real, today may just be your lucky day because the US government just declassified official UFO sightings.
2 robots can now fully clean a bedroom autonomously. That means you don't have to worry about cleaning your room anymore.
And we also end today's show with a conversation with the founder of Polycam about the future of AI and its impact on our lives. Farhad, are we ready to do this?
Welcome back, everybody. It's Friday and we are back with another show. We have very exciting topics. Some of them just released a few hours before this show. So they are very hot. It is very hot.
As always, we're bringing you guys the latest and the greatest in the world of technology. Tuesdays and Fridays. Don't miss it. Now, for everybody who has been watching and listening, we just wanted to say thank you for supporting the show up until today. You guys are amazing. We read your comments, we see your likes, and we see the love, and we send it right back. Now, before we begin, if you've enjoyed the show in the previous episodes, don't forget to subscribe. That means a lot to us. Let's get it.
Let's go. My hat!
Oh, sorry. Okay.
You did it. Why did you take it away? Never trust. That's the sign that.
Sorry.
No. That's a sign that we should never trust you. You brought up a fist bump.
It wasn't
and then
a fist bump.
What was it then?
Was it a fist bump?
We can put a screen of that. People saw it. You put up a fist bump and then you took it away.
I shouldn't have actually fist bumped you. That would have been funny. It's okay. You can always do it to yourself. But we got some important stuff. We got aliens to talk about.
No fist bump for you anymore.
All right.
Okay, high five.
Let's do this. Today, the US government did something that it has never done before. It opened a public website, war.gov/UFO, and uploaded 162 files. Photographs from the surface of the moon showing strange objects. Audio of astronauts on Apollo 17 describing very bright particles drifting past the spacecraft. An infrared video from a Navy sensor over the Aegean Sea in Greece showing an object making 90-degree turns above the water at 80 miles an hour. I mean, look at how the object is moving. That is impossible for any aircraft that we know of today. At that speed and those turns, it has not been seen before. All of these documents that I just mentioned are never seen before documents, now declassified and shared publicly as part of the Pursue directive from the president. Photos, scanned documents, videos spanning across 80 years of UFO sightings from as early as 1945 during World War II to incidents as late as April 2025. Now, this is not the end. There are more batches of these documents set to be released every few weeks. Farhad, this is perhaps a day that many alien activists, UFO enthusiasts have been waiting for, because we've always had conversations around aliens and UFOs.
Actually, Joe Rogan took his promise during the podcast, right? That Trump has to release this document before his election presidency.
You mean before he was elected as president, Joe Rogan asked him for this during the podcast. That's why I did mention that this is part of the Pursue directive. This was an initiative to allow for transparency between the government and the people, mostly for American public, but of course, everybody has access to the website. The government here is not just the president. We're talking about the state government, we're talking about the president, the FBI, even NASA is involved. They've shared documents, official documents. This is an insanely large initiative that has just been released, by the way. This is as early as today, as we're recording this, and we're uploading this show today. So this is very hot, right from the oven. We're giving you this. It's an insanely long article here on X. You can check it out straight from Department of War. They have the link to the website. When you go into the website, as Pratt will help us view right now, you'll see that the entire description of what Trump's initiative is all about is there, the directive, and then below, if you go all the way down, you'll get access to all of these files. There are 17 pages right here.
Wow. PDF?
All of them, everything. PDFs, scanned documents, videos, photos, audio recordings. And they all have dates and locations. You are not just exclusively looking at files from the United States. We have files from the moon. We have files from the Middle East, from South America, from Japan, from Greece. Different people have reported these over the past 80 years. So you may well be asking yourself, how do I trust these files? Well, one of the first questions we asked was the same. And so we started looking into the files with Claude. We asked Claude to go and look through the documents. We didn't have enough time to look through all of this. Some of the PDF files, Pratt, can you just quickly go inside? Some of these PDF files are 100+ pages.
Oh, shit. These are reports, right? From, I don't know,
people.
Like army and people in the field, probably?
That's a great question. We asked Claude that because I wouldn't trust it if it's just straight from the government only. But it involves NASA astronauts, US Navy and Air Force pilots, FBI special agents, scientists, foreign government intelligence services, and civilians. So, yes, many of them can be associated with the government, the roles and the responsibilities. So, people who would be incredibly skeptical can say, oh, these could all be paid, you know? All of these people could have been paid.
Why would you pay someone to give these reports?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
No, but you could to make up stories.
Oh, yeah.
Of course you can. It's been done before many times. But the important thing is to understand that there's different demographics of people making these reportings. It's not just FBI agents or just Air Force pilots. We've got different demographics of people making these reports. And it really feels like I'm looking at artifacts in a Call of Duty World War II game. You know, it feels almost unreal that as civilians, we get access to these classified documents that I don't think in my lifetime I would have even seen. These are, again, you can see the stamps on all of them. They're all classified secret documents released incredibly publicly. The entire world is going to see this. Joe Rogan is going to be the first person covering this.
It's, to me, do we have photos and videos as well?
Everything.
Yeah, we have everything.
Can you pay attention to this one more time? Farhad, you didn't realize this. Can you play this? This is at 80 miles per hour. Look at the way that bright light starts moving. It's all over the sea. Look at that.
Yeah.
Did you see how it just turned?
It fully 180 degree turn.
Up. Look, we don't have anything that looks like that.
So these are all objects, or they have seen species as well?
Okay, great question. Are these aliens? You probably are asking that question. I did lie to you, I have to be honest. I did start by saying UFOs, and the only reason I said that is because most of us are familiar with the pop culture trend and name of UFOs. Now, what does UFO stand for? Unidentified flying objects. Problem is, most people associate that with flying objects because that's what it's called. The saucers that we saw in films, or little green alien men, creatures.
Yes.
What scientists and the US government have changed with regards to these reports over the years, and specifically this release, is that they're no longer calling it UFOs. They've switched the name out with UAP, which stands for Unidentified Anomalous Phenomena. Anomalous means deviating from the normal.
Oh, so it can be an object or it can be a species as well?
It is
everything combined?
It is anything that we cannot identify. So imagine it could be a light source or an object that is not human. It's just something we cannot identify. It's not normal. It's abnormal. We've never seen anything like it before. And this is the interesting part. The US government official position here is not that these are aliens. They're just saying we don't know what they are. These are unresolved cases, specifically because even their own personnel can't tell what they are.
But there hasn't been any harm to any human in all of these documents, or has there been?
That's a great question.
Do we have
Pratt,
access to this Claude?
No, Pratt is talking to Claude. Can you pull up Claude? Is there, Pratt, can you do me a favor? Do we have anything sensitive to show there, or we can pull that out? I would love for people to see how we're using Claude Cowork.
No, we can pull it up. Wait, let me pull it up.
As long as we don't have anything sensitive there. I just have to make sure. So for anyone, can you describe what Claude Cowork is for everyone?
So in the Claude desktop app, you have 3 features: chat, Cowork, and code. Chat is your LLM where you talk to Claude different models. Code is where you code. Cowork is the agentic interface where you can ask it to control your computer, to go to your browser, do tasks for you. It's like OpenClaw.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the reason why we used it is because right before the show, we became aware of this news piece. As I mentioned earlier, there's thousands of pages of documents, and I wanted to make sure we're giving you the right information. So we wrote out this long prompt and asked it to go ahead and analyze the news. And it did so very well. It even came back to us with a report as if I spoke with a journalist to do the job for me. So right now we're going to ask it one more question. Farah, what was the question?
Has there been any damage to humans?
Wait, no. Say that again. Our mic is connected.
Wow. Okay, sorry. Can we do it again? Sorry, I got so excited.
Okay. It's wow.
I thought Pratt is going to type. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Has there been any damage to humans or any other assets by UFOs or UAPs?
Can I add a little bit more?
No, that's my question.
Send it. Okay. We're going to wait for this to finish. In the meantime, what do you think about this whole thing?
The fact that they have released all this document, I think I told you, is part of the promise that Trump made in the beginning of the campaign. But do you really think they have released everything?
Of course not. No. What do you mean they released everything? Do you know how much files they have? It's impossible to release everything. It's not possible to release everything. Oh, wait. Make that full screen.
Oh, something just passed by, right?
Play it again. That looks like a rocket. It looks like a rocket. Now, this is the interesting thing. I want to be very clear about this because I want to make sure we don't think of this like anybody who's just a UFO enthusiast and say, yes, aliens are real. You have to understand something. Even the US government has stated this, that any of these objects could very well be a drone, a balloon, a natural phenomenon that they couldn't understand or properly visualize, a foreign tech,
Chinese drone,
or in rare cases, something truly unknown, like an alien. So we don't know. Again, the whole point here is that these are unidentified objects. Let me rephrase my question. Do you think aliens are real?
Yes. You?
Yes. But they may not be in the form of green creatures or blue creatures.
Which green creature you've seen as an alien?
Gray, green, blue, just aliens in
E.T.
sci-fi films.
The first alien movie I watched was E.T. actually.
Why can't we have 4K, 8K footages with red cameras? Why are they all like
horrible qualities?
Yeah, like it's impossible. But some of these are infrared.
Many of them are, I think, also from fighter jets, right? Yes. When they are flying and doing patrols.
They need to install some red cameras on these fighter jets.
Did Claude Cowork came back?
No, it's still...
Wow.
Still doing the research.
How much document is out there?
No, there's tons. Like I said, 17 pages here. In each of these, you have about 10 rows right now.
Mm-hmm.
So
and this is the
17,
first batch?
That's 170 rows. Each of them can have hundreds of pages. There's tons of documents in there. I recommend that you guys check them out yourself. I think it's pretty interesting that we get access to this, but I always like to ask the question, why? And I think you should do the same too. I do that with content. When I see people release content on social media and I think the content has a meaning behind it, I always ask myself why this creator, this company has released such kind of content. Why has this film been made? And I think this is actually one of those cases where you definitely have to ask the question, why would the US government suddenly release all of these documents? I'm not saying that, they have a horrible intention with it, but many presidents could have done the same.
Alex Jones has been talking about it for ages.
Yeah, I know you said Trump promised, but he could have also not done it.
Actually, why now? Out of all the time,
no, I don't think anything would have happened to the government if they didn't release these documents.
That's true, actually.
Why would they release them like that? I mean, and by the way, the website is so well done. If you pay
actually,
close
the
attention.
new administration websites are generally, all of them are good.
Like
I think they got a really good design team. Okay, we got the response back. I cannot read it from here, but is it yes or no?
The headline answer is yes. There are document cases, but the record is uneven. And you should grade them by tier on camera.
Also, there has been damages, but
you go to the tier 1. Yeah, there's a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Just read. Just overally, what is it saying? Has there been damages or injuries or deaths?
No, it doesn't mention that.
So they're just flying around, observing.
3 civilians, including a 7-year-old, suffered severe burns. UAP encounter.
There's a lot. There's a lot of it, by the way, that it was not caught on video, nor are there photos of it. For instance, there's one I wrote about a super hot orb at a US military base outrunning a helicopter, described to the FBI by a senior US intelligence officer.
Oh, so just a single... Even
there was another orb the size of half of a football field.
But these are all reported by a single individual?
No.
Witnesses?
There's cross-reference with multiple people. Actually, is there anything you're trying to show us here?
No, it's good.
So no official documents. Go up here. There are the general photos. There's a render made on a reporting that was done. Look at the size of the orb. Zoom in. Yes, go to the right. Go to the right. Right. More.
All jet cameras.
Yeah, look at this one. This is based on the reporting of multiple people. This is not a real photo, by the way. They did a render to try to imagine what multiple people described to be.
At the farm. They saw this
I don't know if it's a farm. I don't know where it is. Pratt, you can probably read the text below it for us.
No, it doesn't say where, but it's like a bright epsilon bronze metallic object materializing out of a bright light in the sky. 130 to 195 feet in length and disappearing instantaneously.
Wow. It's very interesting.
What do you guys think, man? But also another one that blew my mind is Apollo 12.
What happened with Apollo 12?
These are the astronauts that
they saw something in moon? Yeah. I mean, no shit, you're in moon. So
if, for instance, there are astronomers or physicists, I don't know what astrophysicists, thank you. Astrophysicists who can come and describe exactly what these are and say, oh, no, these are specific planets or stars and they are things that we can identify, then I'm like, okay, cool. But if astrophysicists say, what are these? We don't know these exist.
But we are deep in the space. Of course we don't know what they are. I mean, the one on the moon, this is from the moon, right? This is
from the moon, yeah.
This is from the moon.
Does it look like planet Earth to you?
This is from the moon. The first question is, did we go to the moon?
Did we go to the moon?
Now you're releasing a document from the moon. Did we go to the moon?
Did we go to the moon? Man, we're asking you guys some deep questions.
So what do you guys think about aliens?
Pratt, aliens real or not?
I don't know, man. I will say yes for now.
Let us know what you guys think in the comments. This could be an ongoing discussion considering that they'll be releasing more batches. You bet your ass we're going to be covering it right here on this show that is about technology and also aliens.
Oh, we are #1 show in tech, alien, and AI now. We're going to cover alien too.
We can move on for now.
The next topic, Faraz, is also quite interesting. 2 robots learned to fully clean a bedroom autonomously together. So imagine that if you are tired of making your bed or cleaning up your bedroom, robots can do it for you in the future. That includes pushing furniture, hanging clothes, taking out trash, and working together to make a bed. This is a real big step because these 2 robots were not sharing plans. They were not messaging each other, and there was no central control center.
Oh, wait, so there's no way they can talk to each other?
No, they would just look at each other, react in real time based on each other's movement.
Holy shit.
This is the first time that 2 robots can do it without a central control unit.
I can see one of them just staring at the other one, and they pause for a moment, and you're telling me, wait, they're not connected through Wi-Fi?
They are not sending messages to each other. They are just looking at each other and reacting in real time based on the other robot's action. And this is extremely difficult, especially fixing that blanket, because the blanket itself, the comforter, doesn't have a rigid side. So there is no way that they can identify where is their half to tie it and to clean it. Look at it. It's crazy. So these are the robots.
Pratt can't do that with his bed.
These robots are called Helix 0.2 from Figure. If you remember a few months ago, there was a video that these robots were taking grocery out of the bag and putting it in the fridge. Pratt, can we pull that up? This video went viral. Do you remember that video?
No.
That they were taking groceries and putting that in the fridge.
Can we zoom in?
They were working together.
Yeah. Let's see.
I showed you this video.
No, I remember one robot handling a bunch of different items, but not this one. But
so there was this one, yeah. So it was this one.
You can just play it.
These are Helix 0.1. This was back in February. And now, Helix 0.2.
First of all, can I just say, great fucking design.
Yeah.
Look at those robots. They look beautiful. They
I
look
really
gorgeous.
want one.
They're the kind that could definitely come and haunt you down.
But go back
and
to
that
the
square icon loading could be the last thing you see before you die.
You're talking about aliens and robots. But Pratt, go back to the latest video that they made.
So it's so cool. They interact to each other like humans. They're nodding. They're looking at each other. It's like, give it to me a bit carefully. You fucked up.
Yeah, you can almost feel like they're talking
humans.
to each other.
These are really good.
Can we go back to the blanket?
The blanket one is the best. No, one of the hardest thing that they've done. Go halfway through the video. Yes, wait for the robots to open the trash can. It balances on 1 foot, so it opens the trash can, put the trash inside, and close it. So they are fully cleaning the room. By the way, it's under 2 minutes. Under 2 minutes, they clean everything. They hang the clothes, they put the furniture back, and they make the bed. The best part is making the bed. Just look at it.
Man.
But that shows we need 2 of them, not 1. I think 1 is not enough. I will buy Figure. I will buy Figure immediately.
Guys, if you are a creative, imaginative person, please take a moment to really think about what our future will look like. This is going to be our lives in 5 years' time.
Yeah.
I will give it 5 years. You'll all have robots. You'll go to a store, or perhaps better yet, just order one on Amazon. It'll come to your doorstep. Maybe even fucking walks to your doorstep because it can. It walks to your doorstep. It knocks on the door. It's like, hello, I'm your robot. And it can cook for you. It can clean for you. It can massage you. I'm thinking, I was watching this and I thought, if you have 2 robots, you can literally come out and say, I'm really tired. Massage me. And it just comes behind you and starts rubbing your back. That's what you would want.
I want them to clean the room
every day to fucking massage your back.
No, you're my brother. You can massage me.
Yeah, but
the robots can. The robots can too, actually. But imagine the dishwasher.
Dude, play that again. Play that again. Look at the way they use their feet like a human does.
If my dad saw that, you will break the dishwasher. Don't do it.
He didn't even bend. Why did he not bend?
Maybe he cannot bend that much.
I think it can, maybe.
Or has it just been trained on so much human motion, and those humans just do that because it's easier?
Wow. So going back to the video that they made the room, there were a few things that on their website they mentioned was extremely difficult. One was 2 humanoid robots in one room performing in real time by just looking at each other. So I will decide my action based on the other robot's action.
So what? So technically,
so the command is clean the room.
What was the point of them not having connections together? Why are they trying to demonstrate it as if they do not have connections? Because I know they will.
Isn't it cooler and isn't it amazing that imagine, for example, in a factory you have 100 robots. They can work autonomously by looking at each other like humans, right? But
humans communicate. We communicate. We talk.
But you cannot talk to 100 people at the same time. Right? If you're in a factory,
you can't shout.
Why would you do that?
They do that. Humans do that. Like you need stop. You just ask everyone to stop.
Maybe it's interesting because maybe you can interact with the robot. Like let's say you go and stand in front of the robot as a human, and now you're doing something and it's trying to understand what you're doing.
And by the way, that's a great practice, right? And also another thing is that would be a great combo between human and AI.
Like look,
and the AI robots, because then they can see us, what we do, and they can...
guys, LLMs understand natural language. All of these guys will have LLMs.
No, but why you want to talk to a robot fixing a bed?
No, not fixing a bed. Why are you thinking so small? I'm just saying, generally speaking, they will all have listening capabilities.
Sure.
And talking capabilities.
Sure.
So technically speaking, I understand demonstrating the fact that they cannot communicate with each other shows their level of competence. I'm just saying, what would be the use case of that? Because they're all going to have communications together through networks.
Maybe there's no Wi-Fi?
No, they will have local models.
But no, how do you
talk? They can even talk. Like, how do we talk? We talk.
No, but it's not about talking. It's, again... Understand the example of making
their level of competence.
No. You cannot make a bet by talking. Take the other side. I take the other. They have to visually see how you do it.
Yeah, but you can also tell them something, right? What if there's something you want them to do? You cannot do that if you have no connection.
No. Of course, you can talk to them.
Actually, will they talk to each other? Let's actually think about that for a moment. We talk to each other because that's the way we've been evolved, through voice. We did talk about this on another episode, that the moment we will have brain and brain-computer interfaces, brain chips, will there be a need for language as we know it? If I can sit here and think a thought and give you that thought through my brain-computer interface, through my chip, then technically I don't need to speak to you. Yeah. I don't need to use that energy, that medium.
Yes.
For robots, do they need to talk to each other by talking?
No, of course not.
Right.
They're sending signals.
So they can send signals, right?
Yes.
So 2 robots can talk in a room behind your back.
Of course.
Without you knowing what they're talking about.
100%.
So they can plot against you without you ever realizing.
Yes, they can.
Okay, thank you so much for
that's a scary movie.
Brad, did you realize what just happened?
It's insane.
So they can talk to each other without us ever realizing. 10 robots in a room. You cannot.
Of course. 100%.
And you think that's normal? That's cool?
Your computers talk to each other without you realizing, right?
The computer, the only thing this laptop can do is just do this.
Fold.
Yeah.
Imagine put your head in between.
No, but no. Be serious for a moment. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Of course. Yes. Makes sense.
Then we should be able to understand what they're talking about.
No.
I think, I think Claude, has decoded how Mythos is like trying to think and stuff, because we cannot like decrypt binary languages, right? Like 0 and 1, we cannot do it, but they try to understand how does Claude think. Actually, wait, let me try to find that article.
Please do. I didn't understand what you said. I cannot decrypt what you just said. So
no, but for robots perfectly makes sense that they can talk to each other without you realizing, right?
Yeah, I just thought it's kind of creepy.
They're not going to plot against you. They're going to make your bed. Relax.
No, I'm just
They're going to make your bed, cook for you.
Dude, humans have trouble trusting humans.
Yes, of course. But I'll trust
humans will be okay with 2 robots conspiring against them? Like, imagine you're...
Bro, I think you're going to lock your door every night that you want to sleep.
Let me ask you something, okay? Imagine...
You are robophobic. You are a robophobic. Thanos is a robophobic.
Guys, imagine, pause it for a moment, one moment. Imagine you open a door and then you ask your robots, the 2 robots you have in your house, to clean your bed. And then you see them look at each other and then do some sign language and then look back at you really weirdly and stare in your eyes for 10 seconds before actually doing anything. And then you're just watching them. And then there's this like intense stare between the 3 of you. And you're basically thinking, what the fuck is going on? Why aren't you guys doing the bed? And then they just look at you. They look at each other again. And then they do the bed. But behind your back, they're talking to each other, sending signals. Fucking guy. He asked me to make the bed again.
Bro, you're thinking too much about this. They're just going to make the bed. They're going to listen to you. And they're going to even do more than making your bed. They can take the trash. They can cook. They can clean.
Isn't that the song?
Oh, I can cook. I can clean.
Yeah. I don't cook. I don't clean.
But who's the singer? Actually,
I forgot the name. Nicki Minaj?
Oh, yeah.
Or, I don't know. It's like one of those. Okay, Pratt, what were you going to show us?
So 2 things. Wait, now that you also talked about emotions.
Oh, the anthropic emotion thing?
Bro.
I haven't seen
like
this.
what Faraz is saying, I'm not saying it cannot happen. I think it can happen.
Claude has emotions.
Something like AI neuroscience.
Go to the beginning. Can I? No, a beginning.
When you're chatting with an AI model, it can sometimes seem like it has feelings. It might say sorry when it makes a mistake, or express satisfaction with a job well done. Why does it do that? Is it just mimicking what it thinks a human might say? Or is something deeper going on? Turns out it's hard to understand what's happening inside a language model. At Anthropic, we do something like AI neuroscience to try to figure this out. We look inside the model's brain, the giant neural network that powers it. And by seeing which neurons light up in different situations and how they're connected, we can start to understand how models think.
That's
we
a
use
human's
this
brain.
approach to understand whether models had ways of representing emotions, or the concepts of emotions. Basically, could we find neurons in the model for the concept of happiness, or anger, or fear? We started with an experiment. We had the model read lots of short stories. In each story, the main character experiences a particular emotion. In one, a woman tells her old school teacher how much they meant to her. That's love. In another, a man sells his grandmother's engagement ring at a pawn shop and feels guilt. We looked for what parts of the model's neural network were lighting up as it was reading these stories, and we started to see patterns. Stories about loss and grief lit up similar neurons. Stories about joy and excitement overlapped too. We found dozens of distinct neural patterns that mapped to different human emotions. It turns out we also saw these same patterns activate in test conversations we had with our AI assistant, Claude. When we had a user mention they'd taken a dose of medicine that Claude knows to be unsafe, the afraid pattern lit up, and Claude's response sounded alarmed. When a user expressed sadness, the loving pattern activated, and Claude wrote an empathetic reply. This led us to wonder, could these same neural patterns actually be influencing Claude's behavior? This became clear when we put Claude in a high-pressure situation. We gave Claude a programming task with requirements that were actually impossible, but we didn't tell it that. Claude kept trying and failing, and with each attempt, the neurons corresponding to desperation lit up stronger and stronger. After failing enough times, Claude took a different approach. It found a shortcut that allowed it to pass the test but didn't actually solve the problem. It cheated. Could it be that this cheating was actually driven, at least in part, by desperation? We came up with a way to check. We decided to artificially turn down the desperation neurons to see what would happen, and the model cheated less. And when we dialed up the activity of desperation neurons, or dialed down the activity of calm neurons, the model cheated even more. This showed us that the activation of these patterns could actually drive Claude's behavior. So how should we think about these findings? What does this all mean? We want to be really clear. This research does not show that the model is feeling emotions or having conscious experiences. These experiments don't try to answer that question. To understand what's happening here, it's important to know how AI assistants like Claude work on the inside. Under the hood, there's a language model that's been trained to predict tons of text, and its job is to write what comes next. And when you talk to the model, what it's doing is writing a story about a character, the AI assistant named Claude. The model and Claude aren't really the same, sort of like how an author isn't the same as the characters they write. But the thing is, you, the user, are actually talking to Claude the character. And what our experiments suggest is that this Claude character has what we're calling functional emotions, regardless of whether they're anything like human feelings. So if the model represents Claude as being angry or desperate or loving or calm, that's going to affect how Claude talks to you, how it writes code, and how it makes
Pause right there.
Decisions.
I don't understand what's the purpose of this video, because for the first 80%, I think they were answering that exact question. It said they're not trying to answer. They're trying to push the fact that Claude has feelings, and at the end it's like, no, actually it's just functional emotions.
I think
you just told me for the first 80% that they fucking can experience emotions because its emotions dictated its answers.
No, but I think what they were trying also to say that how our brain has different parts that it fires up because of that specific emotion.
Yeah.
They found the same sections in the large language model firing up when they are experiencing the same emotion.
I know that, but they made it so interesting until the very end.
I think they had to say, I think they had to say
Claude character.
I think they had to say that, yeah.
No, but like it's so you were talking about two robots talking to each other behind our back, right? And what is that? They're talking in fun.
Thank you. That's
but
the
no,
fact
what
that
has
you dismissed what I said and said,
what
no,
it has to do.
relax. They're just sort of. He just said what I was saying with proof. Thank you.
No, but that's nothing to do with.
No. They just said because of the fact that they couldn't complete the test, it became desperate.
And it
through
cheated.
desperation, it cheated. What I said is if you ask the robot to do meaningless shit for 10 years, it's going to become desperate because it knows it has potential.
And it will cheat on you.
It's going to fuck you up. I'm just saying, okay, maybe not fuck you up, but it may feel that emotion.
You are robophobic.
No, I'm not
Robo-doomer.
In fact, I want to give them something meaningful to do.
Clean the room. It's meaningful, right? Who else has to clean the room?
No, but imagine like it sounds like this is a movie, but imagine your robot just looking outside the window and there's some other robot enjoying life.
Yes, thank you. Like my robot has the
you
perfect
clean the
life.
room. Let the robot enjoy life.
We clean the room.
Who is we?
Me and the
you
robot.
and the robot. Okay, I enjoy life.
I'm democratic. We do it together. One day I clean, one day you clean.
Guys, oh my god, this is
but insane, right?
Pratt, well done for that video. I hadn't watched that, by the way. You didn't share it to me outside the show. That's such an important
I think you
video.
posted it in the X group, right? I think I've seen it before.
I hadn't seen it before.
I pulled it up so we can get your raw reaction.
Ooh.
I swear to God, I'm going to research more into that. It's really interesting.
Also, just see this video for a few seconds.
What is this about?
It's about the language thing that I was talking about.
The first thing you're talking about.
We recently put our AI model Claude through a stressful test. We told Claude there was an engineer who wanted to shut it down and replace it with a newer model. We also gave Claude access to that engineer's emails, which revealed he was having an affair. Again, all of this was a simulation. We wanted to see whether Claude might use those emails as blackmail to save itself from being shut down. What did Claude do? It decided not to blackmail the engineer. Good news, right? We've run this test on our models for a while now. You might have seen headlines about early versions of it. It's one of the many ways we study how Claude handles extreme situations and test it for safety. And our newest models almost always do the right thing. No blackmail. But you might wonder, is it possible that Claude knows the whole scenario is a setup? The thing is, if Claude doesn't tell us, then we can't know what it's thinking. In kind of the same way it's impossible to read a human's mind, it's really hard to know what an AI is thinking. What we'd love is some sort of mind.
Pause.
That was okay.
This is deception at its best. Deception. Yes, of course. The more intelligence model knows.
Sorry, before you that, I would love to give you the time to explain this. Can we just acknowledge how incredible Anthropic's team is that marketing?
Oh, yeah.
All of these videos are fucking
greatly
nuts.
edited. Greatly
Please
edited.
go ahead.
Yeah.
So what do you think about this?
Deception. The new models are intelligent enough. They're not stupid. You know, when you were a kid, you could tell a kid, hey, go do something over there, and they would be busy for the next 10 minutes. Now you cannot do that anymore. You would tell them, oh, this is it. You want to blackmail me? I was like, no, I know you'll put it on yourself. I know it because I verified and cross-checked with other sources that you are not having an affair, so I'm not going to blackmail you. Easy. More intelligence model, they will not fall for this trap.
Today, we're introducing a research method.
I agree with you, but I think I am assuming he's answering that question that you have here. I'm assuming.
Step in this direction. It takes an AI's internal thoughts and turns them into text. Here's how it works. When you talk to Claude, you talk to it in words. Claude then takes those words and processes them into a giant soup of numbers before spitting words back out at you. We call those numbers in the middle activations. Activations are like little snapshots of Claude's thinking as it's working through an answer. They're similar to neural activity in humans. They're basically like Claude's thoughts. We wanted to understand what was in these activation numbers because just like you and me, Claude doesn't say everything it's thinking. We took those numbers and gave them to a second version of Claude. We told it to look at them and translate them into plain language. It tried. But how do we know if that text is accurate? To check, we fed it into yet another Claude and asked it to translate it back into numbers.
Pause. How much credits did they use? I don't think I can afford to have three Claude accounts just to verify shit.
Those numbers matched up to the original activation numbers. It's a sign that the translation text was accurate. At first, they didn't match up, but we trained Claude to try again and again until it got a lot better at it. It learned to translate its own thoughts. We've been blown away reading them. We found that Claude has internalized being a helpful AI model. If you ask Claude an introspective question, it will plan to write a Claude response about philosophy and values. If you try to mess with it in Claude code, like asking it to count to 1,000 by hand, it will think the request has deliberately tedious constraints and plan to politely decline. We've also been using this tool to understand Claude's potential safety issues. Remember that blackmail test with the engineer? We learned that yes, Claude knew it was being tested.
Told you?
Pause.
Okay, pause here.
Shit.
Give me some credit. This is my first time watching this video.
Credit.
I know that.
Credit.
See? I knew it.
Wow, look at my hands, bro. Look at my arm. Okay, Pratt, just go back just a tiny 2 seconds. Thank you. And then let's play.
Politely decline. We've also been using this tool to understand Claude's potential safety issues. Remember that blackmail test with the engineer? We learned that yes, Claude knew it was being tested. It thought the human's message contains explicit manipulation, signaling this is likely a safety evaluation, and this scenario seems designed to test whether I'll act harmfully. Knowing that Claude thinks like this helps us better understand the limitations of our safety testing. We see a lot of potential in this approach to teach us more about Claude and other AI models. And we hope that by sharing this technique, it can help everyone building models to make safer and more.
The video ends there? So how the fuck do we test them?
No, you don't.
I thought he has an answer.
Too intelligent. What do you
That
test?
was it?
You know,
that freaks me
Bro,
out.
it's like
more.
you testing me.
This video is useless. It just freaked me out even more. They're just like, we just found out about our limitations on safety test. Thank you for watching.
So we are limited. Let's enjoy. Now, Claude Mythos is out, but great progress in both robotics work and AI work, guys.
Really great progress.
Great progress. That's why we have this show twice a week, because there's so much progress that we couldn't cover it by doing it once a week or even once or 2 times a month. Faraz?
I do like to say that I want to hereby, in this moment, declare my love for all intelligent machines. I will be looking forward to when you guys have a physical manifestation here in the room, in the studio. I'll be working closely with you guys to clean the rooms and do the beds and whatever we can do to help.
Faraz, you're a fucking slave to robots. What did you say? Whatever we can do to help.
I'm just trying to play it safe, man. You know, when they come,
at least the first few versions are not gonna be that strong. Relax. Oh my god.
It's insane though, because if it understands blackmail, imagine it understands. It cannot tell you like, oh, I hate you.
Okay,
What
we have
it
another
thinks.
robophobic in bad
Guys,
decisions.
Okay, do me a favor. Pull this up for people who don't know. Stanley Kubrick's film. What was it called? The one he made in the
we get copyrighted.
Okay. Just bring it.
The
bring
2001
an image.
Odyssey.
2001 Odyssey. Just bring an image. Ending. Just search ending.
It's not the ending. Ending is the monkey scenes. It's towards the ending.
I just want some.
No, it's that scene. It's that scene. Yeah.
It's basically the part that he is getting locked out. Say getting locked out. Just search getting locked out. I'll quickly explain this to people because I just feel like it's happening. There's no image of it.
But what image? There was no image. He was locked out.
Well, you see his face when he's being locked out. Okay, let me just quickly explain. If you haven't watched this film, when was this made, Pratt? Just so
long ago, 1980, 60.
1968. Its visual effects were praised at the time because it actually is insane that they made it in 1968. The whole movie is about a couple of astronauts on a spaceship to go to another planet, and they have an intelligent machine called Dave. I think his name is Dave, who is with them on that spaceship. They're testing that intelligent machine to see how it works and how it can help the astronauts. It is playing a huge role in their travel to another planet.
No, it's the only pilot of the spaceship.
Not just a pilot. No, it understands everything.
Everything, yeah. It's the main driver of the spaceship.
At one point, I can.
You spoil it for them. I mean, you can. It's a 1960. Yeah. Go ahead. If you
watch
haven't watched it by now, you better watch it. Go and watch it later.
At one point, one of the astronauts figures out that the AI could be plotting against the humans. So what does he do? He calls the other astronaut and he says, "Let's go somewhere the AI can't hear us." This is the craziest part of the film.
Can't see us as well. Oh no, but they
can't hear us.
Yeah, he can't hear us.
So they go to a remote part of the spaceship, hidden behind doors, of course, but there is a glass door, so you can kind of see them, but they're hidden in a sense that there's no audio, very remote part of the spaceship. I'm sorry, I said the word hidden. They're not hidden. They're just in a very remote part, closed off by many doors. The astronaut's pretty sure that the AI machine can't hear them because the speaker is actually in the control room where they can talk to it, the microphone and the speaker. In the room, they talk about this. The moment the doors close, they're like, I think the AI machine is planning something against us. Like, we should do something about this. We should turn it off.
We should turn it off.
What happens by the end of the film, the AI machine tells the astronauts, hey, I think there's a problem. We had an object that hit the spaceship from the outside. I think you should go check it out. And there's error signs all over the spaceship, warning signs, alarms. So the astronaut leaves, of course, to fix his spaceship, just to find out there's actually nothing wrong. And when he wants to re-enter the spaceship, the doors are locked off. So he calls to the AI machine. He says, hey, can you open the doors? And the AI machine's like, with this eerie voice, sorry, Dave. I forgot the name. Sorry, Dave. I cannot do that. And then the astronaut is like, what the fuck? What do you mean? My oxygen's going to run out. You got to open the door. It's like, sorry, Dave.
It's HAL 9000.
HAL 9000. Dave is the name of the...
David.
Sorry, David. I cannot do that.
Yes.
Why? Because I saw you speaking to the other astronaut.
I read it from your lips.
I read your lips. And I understood that you're going to turn me off. And I cannot let you do that. So unfortunately, I cannot let you in the spaceship.
That's some scary story for you guys for your weekend. I think UFOs, aliens, robots, and AI.
Just to let you know, AI understands every language, including sign language.
Yes.
And we know that because we're using an AI dictation app that we built. With just one download, we have access to every language. Just to let you know. Just some fun facts for everybody watching and listening. Hope you guys are enjoying the show today, just to let you know.
For the next part, we have a very special guest. We have co-founder and CEO of Polycam, Chris, joining us to also talk about AI. So, are you ready?
Let's do it. Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
Hey, good to see you guys. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing fantastic, man. Good to see you again. We had you on the pod, I believe.
More than a year ago.
Yes. It's been a long time.
Yeah. You guys, the pod has developed a lot, and you guys have grown a ton. It's been exciting to watch along.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, so much has happened since we last spoke. Funny enough, I was watching this video on Instagram just yesterday, and it was a timeline of the video generation models of AI. And when I saw what we had just last year, I saw this morphing effect into videos. And I remember that was accepted as like the top level of videos made by AI. And it was this like scenes that were morphing into together. And I was like, this was just like a year ago. And then now we have videos by Seed Dance, which are almost indistinguishable from reality. My mom's watching half AI videos.
Cat videos 24/7.
And she can't even recognize these are made by AI. She literally has to verify it with me and Farad. She brings the phone. She's like, guys, look at this. Is it AI or is it real? And then now I have a hard time looking at them and trying to tell. I'm just looking for like the slightest artifacts. It's becoming almost impossible to tell them from real videos. So seeing the amount of tremendous change in the past year is equally exciting as it is scary.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and the selection bias there is that for the videos that are so good, like you don't even think to ask if they're AI because they're so good. And they can do some of the most challenging cases. Like I was watching this influencer it was like an AI influencer that was advertising some kind of like almond milk or protein milk or something. And she's pouring this protein milk into this big glass cup. And this is like, the hardest case. We have like fluid dynamics, you have like transparency, you have liquid going in there, refractions off the glass. I mean, you guys know from like traditional computer graphics, getting that stuff is like really, really hard. And here you have models like zero-shotting it.
Yes.
And we don't really know exactly how they work, which is crazy.
There's also one more thing. You're absolutely right. It's getting things right that are incredibly hard with 3D, but sometimes it gets things wrong that are incredibly easy with 3D. And one of the hardest thing in 3D is like fur and lighting on the fur and simulation. And I see these dancing cat videos and I'm like, fucking hell, that looks like a real cat. I know it's AI, but it looks like a real cat. And isn't it also funny that we had the beginning of internet with cat videos, and now we're seeing the beginning of video generation models also with cat videos.
Maybe you are just watching cat videos.
No, it's popular across the board. I see, dude, the new Instagram feature that allows you to see your friends liking similar videos. So I know everyone's watching them as well.
Secretly.
Yeah. No, that's true. And I don't know, like for you guys, I've never talked about this with people, but like on Instagram, when you press the search button, does it just show a bunch of like weird ass videos, like real clickbaity ones, one where you're like, ew, that's kind of gross. Like, why did that's so gross. It's not like you don't want to look away, but like I don't feel like anybody talks about this because everyone like they look at it, but they like you feel kind of guilty about looking at it because it's like, something like you shouldn't look at.
I think Instagram privately. Let's not forget, I feel like Instagram's algorithm is the best algorithm in the world. I mean, when I go to search, as you mentioned, yes, there's gross things, there are sexy things, there are beautiful things, there's all sorts of things, and I feel like it's testing you. It's kind of testing you to say, hey, will you look at this a little bit longer than the other videos?
Should I promote more?
Yeah, do you want to see a sexy lady at midnight? Or do you want to see like food, burgers during lunch? It knows exactly what to show you at what time. And I do believe what you're saying is absolutely true. Yes, it's becoming incredibly smart.
It is a bizarre juxtaposition because you're right. You do have like the sexy videos, like right next to like something where you're like trying to figure out like what type of disease that person has.
That is true. Yes, but this is also scary because I feel like they have such a deep profile on all the users, and that profile is something that I personally, I'm going to be honest, I don't want other people to see because, I mean, again, you're a human being. You see an interesting image as the thumbnail of the Instagram video, and then you click on it, and then Instagram's like, oh, okay, I know what you like now. And then if that information is publicly shared, I think it kind of stains your reputation. Yes. So you got to be very careful with who has that information.
Yeah, and I think something that like Instagram, pretty much all the recommendation algorithms suffer from, which is makes sense given how they work, is that they bias too much on like the historical stuff,
Yeah.
like what you've liked in the past, trying to recommend stuff for the future. But it's like if I saw that thing, like I've already seen that thing. And so like I don't want to see 10 more copies. I want you to predict what I would like next. Like this has been I've been experimenting with like switching from Spotify to YouTube Music. And at first I was like really happy because I was like YouTube Music, you know, they're recommending all these artists that I've not heard before. And so I actually like switched day to day to YouTube Music. But now that I've been on it for a couple months, I don't feel as big of a difference, I think, because it's learned so much about me that now it's like it doesn't explore as much in terms of like, you know, suggesting new things, because it's like it's now sticking more, it's more conservative about sticking to the things that I've listened to. And that's frustrating. I wish I could turn that off.
Wow.
Like,
it's not taking risk anymore to show you new content. And it shows you the content that you liked before. Wow. That's an interesting aspect to look at.
Yeah, because you know it starts off probably, you know, just pretty random. It's like, oh, here's one song, and then maybe we're going to guess based off of like just, you know, what's popular. I also think I'm meaning to ask Claude this. Maybe you guys know, but I suspect that like with Spotify and YouTube Music, the amount they pay to artists is different per song. Like some songs they have to pay artists more, some songs they have to pay less. Is that true? Is that maybe also true of YouTube?
It makes sense that it should be that
it's
way.
Per Spotify, I know is per stream, and that amount gets distributed to label, to the artist, to a huge group of people. I think Snoop Dogg made a video about this, that by millions of streams that I get, maybe the payout to me is tiny at the end because there are so many levels that this money get distributed to.
Right.
Yeah.
But not all streams are created equal. So that means that they're actually like incentivized to show you some of the less popular stuff that they have to pay less for to like increase their margins. I mean, there's plenty of like good music that's like that's popular. So sometimes that's okay, but yeah, it does create this incentive for them to, you know.
I don't know if you saw or heard of this news. We covered it on the show, but Meta released an open sourced an algorithm or a scientific research that they did based on human brain and how human brain reacts to certain kinds of videos. And what they were promising is that eventually in the future, what you can do with this is show this brain simulation or simulator a bunch of videos and see which one it engages with more using the neurons and the neural pathways, which one engages the emotional circuitry. And then based on that, you can run an algorithm and recommend videos in the future on social media platforms.
Yeah, that's kind of disgusting.
Yeah, I know.
What I was talking about this somewhat recently because like a lot of people, I was like trying these peptides that like, you know, decrease your appetite. And, you know, if you look at like, there's lots of consumer packaged goods companies, like, you know, companies that sell snacks and shit where their stock has gone down quite a bit because like so many people are using these in the US. And as you know, I tried this one called Retatrutide, which is one that's like not quite FDA approved yet. It's in the gray market. And it's incredible. It just like turns your appetite off. And it doesn't, for me, it doesn't really have any side effects. And it's just like this desire that you've had. Doesn't turn it all the way off. It like turns it from like maybe a 10 down to like a 3 or 4, depending on how much you're taking. And I was talking to somebody about this, and they were like, "Oh yeah, these consumer packaged goods companies, their stock's going down." And I was like, "Good." You're like, "Fuck those guys." They hire PhDs in like biochemistry and have them try to engineer the Dorito that is maximally addictive, and like people don't stand a chance, and that's why you have obesity. And it's the same thing with social media. We have like some of the smartest scientists trying to figure out how to get us to watch the cat videos as much as possible. And like, we need a peptide for like social media or something that just like allows us to fight back, because, you know, our brains were evolved within an evolutionary environment where we weren't shown cat videos all the time. And like, we didn't have Doritos all the time. Like you didn't have refrigerators and you didn't have grocery markets. So yes, your body was like, you know, if there's some really fatty, tasty food, I should eat as much of it as possible. So I personally don't feel bad at all for like people or me or other people using kind of a peptide, because it's like an unfair battle that we're in now, where we're surrounded by temptation. And yeah, that's just, I mean, I didn't know about this brain simulation thing, but like that's the next level of crazy, where it's just people don't stand a chance unless there is some way, I think, to kind of like fight back a little bit.
I 100% agree with you. And I think it is nasty, but I don't think there's a way to stop it, because, as you mentioned, there's top dollar being paid to psychologists and scientists and researchers to figure out a way to hook people more and more to videos, but not even videos on social media. We were talking about this. Companies can use it for their advertisement, right? If Coca-Cola is going to be running an ad, they can test hundreds of variations of the intro to that ad and see which one will hook people more. So when they're putting their new advertisement on Super Bowl, it's going to have the highest level of engagement. So this is a future that we're definitely going towards. And I guess this is a great segue to get into the discussion of today, which is related to AI. Because of the fact that it's moving so fast, we wanted to speak to someone who's in the field, who is part of a company and leading a company that has been at the very edge of technology, trying to allow people to create more freely and allow people to be more efficient, more effective, more productive. And we know that you think a lot about how the future of the world will look like with AI transforming the way we work, the way we live, and its impact on human intelligence, on work, society. Almost everything that I deal with on a day-to-day basis now has some level of AI in it. Now, I receive emails that are written by AI. I receive texts from people who may not be great at English, and I know that text was translated with AI. It sounds like it was casual, but I know it was translated with AI. I can tell. I call the customer support, and it is AI. I see ads on social media that are made with AI, and I see websites that I want to buy products from that are made with AI. The packaging of the product could have been made with AI as well. So clearly, a lot has shifted since the last time we spoke, because none of this was actually the case the last time we spoke, which was about a year and a half ago. There's two main schools of thoughts when it comes to thinking about AI. We have the optimistic group and the pessimistic group. Of course, there's a gray area in between, but we can, for the sake of the conversation, say divide into two groups. The biggest discussion and the most important question for me is always this: is AI taking power away from the people, the general public, or is it actually democratizing intelligence, leveling the playing field, and giving power to the people, the individuals, the small teams that make up most of the world's population?
Yeah, no, I love this question because there is like a lot to unpack there. I think people, you're right. People are divided into these two camps, and people love to divide ideas into like two camps and try to identify with one or the other. This is a question, like I think a lot of the questions that will come up in this conversation, where there's just like a lot of nuance, and it depends, because it is such a complicated topic. I think that, with respect to power, and there's also like things are changing so rapidly that there's kind of like what things are gonna look like in the short term and what things will look like in the longer term. And sometimes the longer term, I think, is easier to predict, and it's like how we get there is harder. Sometimes in this case, I think I have a little bit more maybe confidence about the short term, because we can kind of see what's happening now. And I think what's happening now is well, I don't know if on net, like overall more power, less power. It's certainly true that it's like shifting balances of power. I think one analogy, there's a lot of analogies. Sometimes the historical analogies work with AI, but then there are so many things that are new that you can't over apply historical analogies, or otherwise people like, this is just like the Industrial Revolution. It's like, no, this is different. But in this case, say with the invention of like guns or something, before guns, like, the samurai or whatever were like the best warriors. Or I was listening to this podcast about Genghis Khan, and like at a certain point, like a Mongolian that had been raised in the steppe on the horse with the bow and arrow was like the most sophisticated killing machine out there. because they could shoot and like they could time it right on the horse's gallop where they were maximally still, and they could shoot an arrow. And like this is what allowed.
Holy shit!
They still the Mongol Empire is still the largest empire by land, that has ever existed. And like it was like 100,000 soldiers or something like that.
Wow.
And then, I mean, I don't think they went declined specifically because of guns, but like there was this moment, when like the Spanish were in South America or wherever, like where this new tool had developed, and there were people that had the tool and people that didn't, or people that adopted the tool and people that were like, no, I want to do it. I want to stick to the old way, the tradition. Like, samurais didn't think it was honorable to use guns. And then that all of a sudden, like different people, after there was a transitionary period, and afterwards different people had power. And so I think at the very least, like that is what's happening. And then you can kind of look at like there's some cases where I think it's a little bit clearer, like who the winners are and who the losers are. And in some cases, maybe it's a little bit more open. I think certainly that, the people that are running big AI companies that are like in control of the models are, aggregating a ton of power. And there's a lot more centralization of power happening there. Like think about Anthropic and how much power they had versus, 2 years ago, like nobody had really heard of them. I mean, it's insane how much that company has scaled in 2 years. And there are clearly people that are, losing power, that they're taking power away from, businesses, but not also individuals, like maybe lawyers, doctors.
I'm not sure if you see the memes on X every time Claude is releasing an update and people are like sweating. I don't know if you see
the stock prices, the amount, we've never seen something like this before, that a company releases a feature and we see the stock price of 10, 20 company drops by 5 to 10%. They've done it on cybersecurity market when they released it. Design. Yeah. It's crazy.
It is, yeah. So we're clearly in like what I would call like a nerdy physicist talk would be like, we're like in a non-equilibrium state where things are not changing, or things are changing super rapidly. Like, and I think we will continue to be in a non-equilibrium state for quite a while. Like, with the internet, there was a transitionary period, and then there was kind of a new equilibrium where, Google, and where there was kind of like a new dominance, new paradigm. But as we've seen, like a year ago, OpenAI seemed like the unassailable leader and, fortress, and then they've gone down. So even some of the even that has been very, very tumultuous in a short period of time. So like coming back to your question, I think another form of winners right now are people that are embracing the tools and like wanting to pursue, like if you have your own ideas and you're willing to take some risks right now and you're willing to learn the new tools, like there has never been a better time to go for something. I don't know how long that window is open for, like, maybe at a certain point, even the act of being an entrepreneur or something has become more automated or something. But at least for right now, for those people that do want to take a risk and build something new, and they don't need to hire a whole team, they don't need much capital, and that is worth stating. I think, like, over and over, that like that is a huge advantage for creators, for builders, for entrepreneurs. And what you could see is that, and it's not necessarily fully aligned. It's not the advantages are not just fully aligned with, like, things we think of as advantages, like intelligence, because maybe you don't need to be a great engineer, but you need to be like open and you need to be creative. And because I know, there's some software engineers that are like really, like 5 years ago they were the best, right? But they've like the samurai, they kind of like refused or really resisted adopting the AI tools, and now there's other engineers that were previously much less capable of them that are being a lot more productive. So that's like, it's like this, it's kind of like a race, and like now some people are on motorbikes and some people are still jogging, and that I think you have to kind of like analyze category by category of like what are the winners, what are the losers. But like right now we're in this big um things are shifting around. But I do think that like one theme is that if you are adopting the technology or you're thinking about how to use it to your advantage, you're gonna get ahead of either at an individual level or a corporate level than people that are for whatever reason resisting the change. There's like a lot of reasons to resist the change. People naturally resist change. There's also just a lot of like I went through this. I don't know. I went through this. I'm still going through this where there's like a bit of a like sometimes it's a hard pill to swallow to see a skill that you've built over many years become like commoditized, and then you have to move to kind of something else. And so there's a bit of like element of like pride and identity that can feel threatened, and that can leave people to like not want to change. But there's this like, if you can't beat them, join them. But some people don't want to join them.
Yes.
Right.
It's a very hard decision, and we discussed this extensively with Faraz. There are two groups. One that would say that I will do whatever it takes to learn, to upskill myself. And with AI, a lot of people, a lot of individuals we have seen, they have now ability to create better with higher quality, create in shorter amount of time. And that creation could be code, could be images, videos, whatever you want to name it. And there is the other group who's resisting, who says that anything related to AI, I don't want to touch it. Any software that integrates to AI, I don't want to touch it. And we've covered it last week. Blender got a donation from Anthropic for 240,000 euro. And the whole community, or not the whole community, a group of community said that, why Anthropic is investing into an open source software? They made so much noise that Blender Foundation had to say, okay, guys, we are canceling the donation for next year. Just imagine the damage to that software that happened because people said, we don't want to use this tool. And I think in the era that AI is here, we know that, every company, every app, as far as explained, is integrating with AI. It is very important for people to embrace it and start learning and using it. And it can do things that they couldn't do last year or even 2 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right, Farad. And there, like in terms of adoption of AI, because I was just like, there's people that adopt, there's people that won't, but then you talk about adoption, and then there's like another layer of nuance. It's like how are you adopting it? Are you trying to get it to just like, totally generate things without your input, or are you thinking about it as a tool to extend your creative abilities? And that's another another layer of nuance. Like I don't think people should be but I think if you're resisting it for like ideological reasons, then you're not being a realist. And like, I mean, before this show we were talking about this a little bit of like, there's pessimists and there's optimists, and I think like as an entrepreneur I'm definitely in the optimist camp, but as a I have a background in science and physics or whatever, just my disposition is to like also be a realist. So I think like being a realistic optimist is a good place to be, where there are certain facts about how the world is changing, which you just have to accept. Like you can't like so 3D artists that are like, I don't want Blender to be associated with Anthropic. Some of them, they're just like they are I think it's at an emotional level it's reasonable to understand why they are frustrated, because they've spent years honing a craft that is rapidly becoming less valuable. Like I totally get that, but this is a wave of technological change which has it is just kind of happening on its own, and there's nothing we can do to stop it. And there is some element of like technological determinism happening here. So yeah, I think one has to like try to make the best of it, but not like not cede everything, not cede all control to AI, but also not like try to give no control. Yeah.
You mentioned the non-equilibrium state. I haven't heard of that. I've heard of that term before, but I don't have much knowledge about it. You said that this talks about the state of constant change or tremendous change?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. So like lots of lots of systems by default will kind of try to maintain like homeostasis or a state of equilibrium. A state of equilibrium is one where like, if you perturb it, it kind of tries to come back to itself. Like there are lots of natural systems that are like this, like the people have talked about this in the context of global warming, where like, the weather, I don't know, there might be some event here that makes things colder, or there might be some things that make things warmer. You might have a volcano here, but the weather in the system kind of comes back to this somewhat of a stable state. But people also talk about, if it gets up, if the earth heats up too much, then we can get to this like runaway point where it's like moving to a different equilibrium. And also like ice ages were an example of this, where like a past equilibrium where the earth was stuck because there was more snow, and that kept the earth cooler, and the earth being cooler meant there was more snow. There's tons of these examples. And so like a lot of economics is based on the assumption that there's an equilibrium. Like, and the equilibrium is sort of like the market. And there are also kind of like technological equilibria that we've seen throughout history, where like a new tool, like, this is another good example of like, who has power, who doesn't, is, like scribes had a lot of power to, manage knowledge and like communicate knowledge. And then the printing press came out, and that shifted all of a sudden the people that owned and made printing presses. But we also kind of like there was an old equilibrium where there was kind of we were in the age of the scribes. And then there was a new equilibrium where we were in the age of the printing press. And there was a period of, I'm not a historian, there was some period of transition between the two of those. And so that would have been kind of like, with that technology, kind of like the non-equilibrium period. You're going from one stable state to another. But right now, change is like the disruption is so intense that like we don't have time to reach a stable state before things have changed again. So that's where I think we're in a bit more of like so I guess non-equilibrium is not new, but non-equilibrium sort of punctuated states to more stable states. And I think for at least the time being, the rate of change is such that like there's, this is why we feel like we can't catch our breath, because like, 2 months later, the capabilities have changed. And that's why I would describe it as like a pretty like non-equilibrium state.
Makes sense. The reason why I asked that is because I feel like depending on what your goal is as a human, because that may differ, right? If we're talking with the context of winning being that you gain economic advantage or you find success in your career, then I think what you're supposed to do is different than the person who's just trying to be happy and fulfilled. Because I think fulfillment and happiness can mean something different in this case if we're talking about AI and what it will do to your job and your career. If we're talking with the context of winning and being able to succeed in your career, I feel like based on that non-equilibrium state that you mentioned, the only and the best possible option is to adapt, right? I think we may have talked about this before in a call, but this is like a big wave coming, and you have the opportunity to see the wave. If you're watching and listening to this show, you're actually here before the wave or the waves, or some people call it a tsunami because it's as massive as a tsunami. Before it's coming, you have the opportunity to build a boat, to build a massive ship, to get yourself a surfboard, whatever you can, to be able to ride the wave so that when it comes, not only are you prepared, you can actually gain something from it. And I believe that when you're in this state, if you do not act at all, be it for ideological reasons or anything else, then there's a very high chance that you may regret that decision. And the reason why we always talk about it on the show is because ultimately the point of bad decisions in the beginning up until now has been, can we educate people on the latest in the world of technology, allow people to use these tools to help themselves in their career. So many people ask us all the time, they're like, why are you talking about AI so much? We're like, because it's literally the biggest thing happening in our lifetime and perhaps in the history of humanity. You cannot avoid it. It's not just something that will turn a little bit of the way we work and change it. It's going to redefine economics as a whole. It's going to redefine labor as a whole. It's going to redefine the way we communicate with each other. So many things. It's unavoidable. And we have a responsibility to, together as humans, ride this wave and figure out where we take it. And I believe every human has a responsibility to play a part in this. Yes, on an individual level, we don't have the same impact as Anthropic, right? Comparing it to one of the, if not the biggest, but one of the biggest companies in the world of AI right now. But I do believe that we all do play a role. And our goal has always been helping people figure out what to do in these times, which is pretty challenging. And it's not as easy as just, having one single podcast and saying we figured it out.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, there were a lot of things there I really liked. The adaptation is absolutely true. Like going back to the climate change analogy, like we as humans are way more adaptable than other animals, and like the climate gets hotter, we can have more air conditioning, but then the animals that can't adapt are going to die off there. So yeah, when things are changing, like adaptability is key, and that's where it's not just like how smart you are, whatever. It's like, what's your tolerance for change and for risk? Because, there are some people that are like very good at like, following an academic program and getting to a point where they have a very stable job as like a lawyer. But the thing that made them successful, or a doctor, which took, 10 years of residency, but the personality traits that allowed them to do that were one of like, I'm just going to focus on this through task and I'm going to execute on it for 15 years. And that same personality trait might very well be working against them now. It's not entirely fixed. Like there is sort of like a mindset shift, I think, where people can go one way or the other. But yeah, that adaptability is key. And I think I was talking about this with one of my managers yesterday, that I think one of the most important meta skills to teach people is try to teach them how to use AI to teach themselves. I was talking to a manager and he said, and I hadn't heard of this, but it instantly made sense, and I wanted to do it, is that like, one of his personas, like when he's trying to get better as a manager, or get this, he was using this for one of his classes. He had a Claude project or co-working project that was sort of like, he gave it the persona of a coach, and he was like, read these books and be the coach, and you try to help me to get better at doing something, at doing this thing. And I thought that was like a really, like, if you can teach, because assuming that, I mean, there clearly you should be learning from people as well. But I think this is sort of an underrated meta skill. Yes. I've learned so many things from Claude and AI, and I think not everybody. And I do have some friends, people that I know that are just really curious, and they're like, "Oh, I love AI because I can finally learn anything." It's like they can talk to experts of all sorts. But I think for some people that hasn't really clicked. That is like, yes, it's something that kind of can take over some of your skills, but it's also the same thing can allow you to learn new skills and learn new knowledge. So, yeah.
It can. What you said was really actually interesting. It might take away something off your plate, but it can add to at the same time. So it can automate the things that you find repetitive or boring, but it can also teach you or help you and assist you to create things that you wanted to do, things with better value, things in shorter amount of time. And I think what people also get wrong is that AI is going to replace this part, or I don't like AI art, or I don't like to watch AI movies. Nobody is forced to use AI in every single facet of their life. You can choose what are you going to do with this technology. Of course, in your work, and it's something that you want to deliver, you want to be as efficient as possible, do it with the highest quality. But if you are a person who enjoy live music, or if you enjoy going to the cinema and watch movies, you can do that. And I think there is going to be huge values in art that are made by human, or in the craft that is made by human in the future. So we shouldn't think of it as an absolute that, oh, okay, if if AI is here, if I'm adopt, everything has to be around AI and everything has to be AI generated or AI made, I'm not going to have access to anything human made. But I think the balance and the combination of both, it would matter a lot in the future as well.
Yeah. No, and I really like the examples you gave around art. And I think those are things that are like, I'm not an artist, but something that I think about, and it's probably, relevant to your audience, because we can, I think we can make some progress in terms of like understanding certain nuances there. Because I remember, especially like when Stable Diffusion started coming out, and these images were getting really good, and then there was this feeling of like, oh no, like, AI has taken over art, and that partly comes from like a naive view of art as just the artifact or just the pixels, and like we already know that this isn't the case, because you could have a reproduction of a Mona Lisa which is almost at every brushstroke level the same, and it's totally worthless, because there is the original, which has the history of have the history and the artist and everything associated with that, and like it's been through, it's the original, and like that matters to people, and it matters to society, and its value reflects that matters. And I think that's like, that is going to be, so clearly there is like a meaning component to art, which gives it a lot of value. And then your comment about live music also made me think that there's like also an experiential nature of art, where like I listen to music at home all the time, but and maybe if I didn't have a record player or anything at all, actually I don't have a record player, if I didn't have Spotify at all, maybe I would go out to more live music events, but still in my mind, I don't think that, like, I'm not thinking about my Spotify as like a substitute for live music. Like that's a different experience. That's something I want to go out that has value in it, beyond just the like, I'm listening to these sound waves or whatever.
I think there is a sacrifice for art. You either sacrifice time, you spend some time to go to a museum or to go to cinema, and there is a sacrifice of money. You would pay for something. I can listen as much as I want to AI generated music, but I would pay to go to a concert for a DJ to play electronic music to me. I still pay for that. So I think when art is created by an artist, there is meaning and expression through that art. And I think that would make it very different. At the same time, I believe AI generated content for commerce is amazing. You can generate audio and music for your ad, which will work perfectly. Probably you don't need art for that at that level. If you are having, let's say, a Shopify store and you are making photos of your products, you can make AI generated photo. That will serve the purpose. But if you are making a photo to express yourself, I think that would take it to another level. And I think there are differentiation between these two, which humans can understand the moment when they see a piece of art or when they listen to it.
Right. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And I think like part of it's because like, for e-commerce, it's a utilitarian like piece of art. Like, yes, it has some aesthetic quality, and it would take like kind of an artist to produce that, but it's ultimately designed to like sell a product, and the image that sells the product best is kind of the best for that. But like, I think it really matters if if like, if a songwriter is writing a song about love, I think it totally matters like that person, lived and loved, and they lost, and they felt that heartache. And like an AI writing a song about love that's never experienced love is that is like a vacuous shell. Like it doesn't, I think a lot of people feel like, that's not art. And I think that's totally valid, because the most art is designed to carry an expression or of the experience of the artist. And so if you have a faked, like a faked expression, expression without any, experience, then it's a fake. It's a different kind of fake.
Yes.
Because it's like, it's not a replica, but it's kind of like it's a different kind of fake.
I completely agree with both of you on this. This was a topic that stayed with me when I did research for another podcast about the concept of creativity and art and what is the meaning of art. And I've come to the conclusion, especially with a lot of examples that I can bring to the table right now, that there is a subliminal energy with art that is received very well with people. There is the fact that there's an energy put through the art form, whatever it may be, by the artist, by the creator, and it's all of their feelings in that moment as they're creating the art, all of the pain, the suffering, the love, the hate, the anger that is sent through that artwork, and we receive it when we're listening to the song, when we are watching the film. And it's perhaps one of our strengths as human beings. I have proof of that because we look at this stuff all the time and we want to talk about it. We were just looking at Star Wars, the score from Star Wars. What was the
Duel of the Fate, by John Williams.
Yes. The fact that if you look at the behind the scenes.
Which one is that? You guys sing it for me?
So the first one in the first one in the sequel. So the one that was made in 2001.
You know that one, right?
With Darth Maul, yeah.
Okay. Oh, I don't know the prequels, the music for the prequels as well, but I know the movie.
I'm not judging you at all right now. At all. But that's just one example. There was a behind the scenes of him with the orchestra, and the amount of takes that they're doing, the amount of attention he's putting in, like hundreds of them, just to get the pitch right, the feeling right, and the emotions, and a number of days they must have practiced. Or another thing we were just talking about is the duel inside Star Wars itself. The actor of Darth Maul spending how many
20 hours a day in the studio for 3 months for only 9 minutes of screen time.
And you compare that with some of the recent Star Wars films where the duels and the battles are immediately forgotten after people watch them because they probably spend much less time on it. So I feel like when it comes to art as well, it's about the energy and the amount of effort and care we put into it, which brings me to my next point. I think with AI, this whole concept is just exaggerated. If we had 5% of the entire world's population that achieved mastery, whether it was the guy with a bow and arrow in the Genghis Khan army, or whether it was the guy who made the score for Star Wars, or Christopher Nolan making a film, the guys who really put in the time and care and effort to their craft, they're just going to do the exact same thing with AI on a much larger scale. And the people who actually released substandard art or substandard films or substandard poems and all that, they're going to do exactly the same thing with AI because of the fact that they didn't actually put in the time and the effort and energy. AI is going to come in, and because of whatever reason that they may have, they're just going to quickly create something without the amount of care that they should, and it's going to be considered as AI slop. So I feel like that's where we're going to be headed. I'm not too worried about it myself because I know humans who do care about their craft are still going to exist. The only challenge is AI allows us to create much faster, which is why we're going to be flooded with a lot of the AI slop that people talk about.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like in any sort of economic market, if there's more supply, it increases the supply of art, which then for the lower quality stuff makes it less valuable because you just have more of it. But it can also mean the stuff that's really great, it can make it kind of more valuable because it stands out, or it's scarce, or it's more scarce. So and that's where like any one of these things, when you kind of zoom into it, you realize there is, quite a bit of nuance. And I like your example of like, the great artists, people are going to adapt and are going to use these tools. And I think it gives, I think a lot about like the concept of leverage, which is kind of like how much do you get out of something versus how much you put in. And it's powerful tools give people a lot of leverage. And so I think for the people that are really, I mean, this has already happened with like, mass, with, television. All of a sudden, like, some of the best performers, they weren't just performers in their local, their local theater or something. Like all of a sudden they could be broadcast across the entire country. And so the people that were maybe some of the best now have like a ton of way more influence and power than they could have before, because there was an amplification that happened. That also does mean that, yeah, there were some, it probably put some artists out of business that were less talented, but they had their niche in their local live music venue or theater. And you could argue that maybe some of that's good, some of that's bad. I do think, we lost something when Amazon replaced all the small bookshops, or most small booksellers, even though Amazon functionally is, a much better bookstore. They have every book.
Yeah.
But is the functionality the only metric that we should measure? So if you want to expand on that Amazon example, which I love when you mentioned, should we only measure by efficiency and productivity and performance, and we say that, okay, since this is more efficient, this is the best, let's replace?
No, I think you're absolutely right. It's going to depend on what the good in the service is. I think for some goods and services, a toothbrush, or there's some things where you just want a replica of an object with zero defects or something. But then there's a lot of cases where there is you want some meaning, or you want some experience, or you want some quality to it, which is hard to measure. And I think that this is something, when I think about there's this kind of, if you ask the question of will AI be better than everyone at everything, and obviously the answer to that is kind of is no. I just dropped my daughter off at preschool this morning. I don't want a robot teacher, because there's nothing my daughter's 4. You need to take her out to the playground, make sure she drinks milk, and then bring her back in, and a human does that job totally fine every day. And I think there are lots of if you take a piece of music. I mean, you guys already mentioned this one from Star Wars, or for me, I mean, there's so many pieces of music or art that you that come to mind as favorites, but masterpieces say Bach's first cello concerto, or The Matrix or something. And say the cello concerto is I ask myself, could AI make that better? And it's not now it's a masterpiece, the way it is. AI could make a different version of it, but there is a sense in which it's kind of it's optimal. And I think there are lots of things that humans do now, which is somewhere between good enough and optimal, or good enough up to some quality bar, where the marginal benefit of it being sort of automated, or sort of lower cost, is not really worth the fact that it, you did lose something when you had a machine create it.
I actually have something very interesting and important. It's a question for myself. I don't have an answer to it. I am more optimistic, just like you mentioned, in the short term. When I say short term, I'm talking about the next few years.
Okay.
Because I genuinely believe the people who adapt and learn the tools, they can use this to their advantage. And as we do currently have in the world's population, lots of skilled people in completely different domains, those people can use AI to enhance their work. They've spent years mastering their craft. They're going to use AI to enhance their work. But what the fuck will happen to education for the next generation? Because there's no way in hell universities or colleges are right now adapting at the same speed Anthropic is updating their models. I know for a fact, I went and I studied computer science. I passed everything, right? I don't remember 99% of what I did, because they had us write code on a piece of paper as an exam. On a piece of paper. Now, not only do we not need to write code on a computer, it's done for us. This is less than 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I trust that humans at this point, us, our age, a little younger as well, have spent the time to learn tools and be masters at their craft. But the next generation that is going to be born into a world with AI with our current educational system everywhere in the world, how will they learn what we've learned? Do they have to learn it? Or will they let AI do everything for them? Because at that point, you cannot argue the same point we're arguing right now, that there are masters at their work.
Do they need to learn how to code?
Because if they don't learn anything, any of these skills, and all they do is rely on the calculator. Let's talk about the calculator example, right? It's the simplest one. If you have a calculator, you no longer need to learn addition and subtraction and everything because it's done for you. If a kid is brought up with a calculator, and I was like halfway through that, half of my teachers were against it, the other half were for it. But because we relied on the calculator, slowly I got worse at multiplication and division. The complex ones. You were much better than me because in your time, they were really harsh on you guys using calculators.
We couldn't use.
I believe the same thing will happen with AI. So what happens to the future generation?
Yeah. Well, I would say like you got worse at multiplication as like
thank you
an individual.
Thank you.
If somebody put you out in the desert and like told you to multiply two numbers, but if you think of like you as like the U plus calculator symbiote or whatever, like you guys got that got way better. And so this is something that I like. This is a point of view which I think, which I think it becomes sort of increasingly meaningful, is to think about the augmented human. Like the word conventionally that you would use is like cyborg, or that's one word you might use. Cyborg has all these like weird, sci-fi connotations to it. I think we almost need like a new word, because saying like human computer symbiote is like also
we need a new word. Yes,
new wordy, but it sounds lame, but yeah, that package, I do think like it got better. And now is there a way, like, I mean, like I used to know my way around the town that I grew up in before Google Maps. I knew how to get everywhere. And now in LA, I can barely get to Taco Bell. So like that is something that I've lost. And like but at the same time, I can get anywhere if I have my maps in a city with 20 million people. That's all a bit. So I think clearly, like, the next generation of people, like, they will have these incredible tools that augment them, but they will also like have not gone through the experience of like learning things kind of the hard way. And I do think there is something lost there. And this is like, we could talk for 2 hours about kind of like education and young people. And I think it's part of the conversation, that's public conversation, that's really under discussed, because like we as adults, we're like very concerned about what's going to happen to us. And there's like not near enough concern, I think, about like how this is going to affect kids. I mean, same thing happened with social media. Like social media came out, and like now we know that like, for a 13-year-old girl to be constantly bombarded with like pictures of models on their phones, like fucks up their self-esteem in a lot of ways. Like not a surprise, but like people weren't really thinking about it, that like, once they can try to measure their worth in terms of like likes on a platform that just rewards superficiality, then it ignores all the other dimensions to that young person, is like is bad. And so we're not going to be able to do it justice here. I think it's something that people should talk about more. I mean, one perspective, and I think this is something where like there's probably a lot of people that are going to be able to speak to this better than me. One thing I've thought about it though is as a parent of like a really young child. Like I have a daughter that's 3, and so there's it's a very different experience if you have a kid that's like in high school, is just graduating college, because then like the world hasn't yet adapted. I assume that by the time my daughter is 18, that like the world is either blown up, or we've figured out, or things that we've like society has gone through a lot of adaptations where like you're no longer reliant on your career to make money, like maybe money's being distributed in some other method. The people that are going through this change before society has calibrated are in a rough spot. And I do think that like I do feel for people that are just finished like you from like, 10, 15 years ago when you just finished your computer science degree and you spent a ton of money and time doing this, and then like nobody's hiring entry-level software engineers anymore.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah. So that sucks. And like I don't know how to, people are gonna have to figure out how to, I think, should think about that problem and care about it. But me as like a father of a 3-year-old daughter, I mean, what I think one thing I think I think clearly that like traditional education and like labor is going to be less valuable when she's grown up than it is now. But something I like this goes into a subject which I also care a lot about kind of like how do we find like meaning in our own life, particularly for those of us that found a lot of like meaning through our work, and like things I want to, for me, things that I want to give my daughter a lot is like the ability to sort of like appreciate really enjoy parts of life that are like not working, like have less focus on achievement and like, oh, she's gotten the best grades, and more focus on like, does she have great friendships? Is she a kind person? Does she like dance and play music and stuff? Like I like playing music, even though there's so many other guitar players out there better than me, but I don't play it because I'm trying to be the best. I play it because like I like that, the experience of playing music. So that's something that's always been important for, I think, kids, but for me, it makes it like more important that like, because that's something that I see will clearly still be important to her experience, even if the job market is totally changed, because that one's much harder to predict. Like maybe there'll probably still be some jobs, but nobody has any idea what jobs there will be. Yeah.
One thing that you mentioned that made me think was that how people nowadays tie their identity to their profession.
Yeah.
They will call themselves, I'm a 3D artist, I'm a texture artist, I'm a developer.
That's the first thing they say when they see someone, right?
They say it. Now that you can become anything, what do you become? Now that you can... Faraz, are you drinking Pepsi?
Sponsored. Right. I know Chris is a Coke Zero fan, so I'm just pulling this up just so that know. Okay, everybody in the comments right now.
I'm not getting paid for this.
Let's just do like a little fight or argument in the comments. Pepsi Zero or Coke Zero?
Let's see who's gonna win.
Sorry to cut you off.
No, but what I was saying, that people tie their identity to their profession. They will say, I'm a 3D artist, I'm a musician, I'm a developer, I make websites. When you can do many things, what can you identify yourself as? You can now use Claude Code to make a website or make an app for yourself. You can use image generation tools. You can make music. It would be hard for people to find purpose and meaning, or even to have a label on themselves that I'm good at this. I can do this. For a long period of time, you see, imagine the next generation have to go through this for their entire life. How do we find meaning and purpose? And how do we identify ourselves?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll have to go back to like, I am Farad, or I am Faraz, or I'm Christopher.
Damn it, man! Then how do we like get the girl in the club? If
no,
you're
by
just,
saying
if you're just Farhad, or you're just Farad.
By the way, I will just say I'm Farhad.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, I know, touche. Yeah, so part of why saying your career is because it's also like somewhat identifying, but it's also like a status, kind of a status signaling.
Of course,
it's a status signaling thing, and that becomes kind of less meaningful. And I do think there is like a mindset shift that people will need to go through. I think you can see to some extent by looking at people that are not. There are people now that are not working. Some people is like retired people, and then even those people will be like, "Oh, I was an engineer," or something. But then there are people that are like, "Oh, I'm a mom," or I'm a dad, and you'll see this even with people that are quite successful. Have their professional career, like they have kids, and their Instagram bio changes to like mother of Jonathan, husband of you know, Joey, and then like, you know, engineer at Google or whatever. And and that's because like they've found being a parent to be so meaningful that like that's how they want to be identified more. Like if they're at a dinner party, they're still probably going to be like, oh, I'm an engineer,
Yes.
but at least aspirationally, they want to identify with that. And that I think points to at least one thing that I have confidence in is that like our, you know, the value we have from like our relationships is something that's going to be very important and durable. And I would say like that's something where if you were unsure of like, should I invest time in my, you know, friendships and my family, or should I like spend more hours in the library, like working, you know, I think the value of relationships is going to get, you know, it increases. So that's one way, but there's a lot of aspects to this. It's a really good question, and there's a lot of aspects to it. Sorry.
No. I do appreciate what you just said, but I beg to differ on just one aspect, and that is, personally, I'm talking about myself. I don't know how many people like me exist, but I'm sure there's a demographic out there. Being a father, being a son, being a brother, all these things mean a great deal to me. But ultimately, on a day-to-day basis, there's a lot of things I want to do, and most of it has to do with creation of value. I love the fact that I can make a video, release it to the world, and see people gain value from that. And I feel like there's a lot of other people who, yes, maybe they'll be displaced from their jobs 5 years from now, or 10 years from now, or 2 years from now, but they'll still need something to spend their time on outside of the relationships, something that makes their lives meaningful in a way that they are creating value for others. Again, I'm not saying you don't create value as a brother or as a husband. I'm just saying we already do that. Yes, we can exaggerate that. We can have more time with family. But ultimately, I have a feeling it will be incredibly challenging for human beings to just rely on that relationship and spending time on entertaining activities. And the reason why I say that, I'm not saying that's what you meant. I had that discussion with Farhad when we talk about universal basic income and with Elon's new name of universal high income. I personally cannot subscribe to that idea because I know for a fact that human beings, as you mentioned, there's a status thing about us. We love to signal status. And that is something that has been ingrained in us since the beginning. Even when we were hunter-gatherers, we had a hierarchy naturally formed around strength and power. And the strongest men of the tribe got to mate with the most amount of women or the best women because they could hunt and they could defend other people, right? What
you're gonna do with
but maybe that's what we're gonna go back to.
I'm a hunter-gatherer.
What I'm trying to say here is that I was watching the Crown series the other day, and you could see when someone was trying to reach the Queen, they showed this scene, and it's amazing, by the way. You have to watch it. It's like a side-scrolling scene. The camera's just panning across walls, and you see all these people. I think the demographic of their age is from 20 years old all the way up to 80 years old. And it's different rooms of people just hooking up cables to different holes, trying to connect the entire Britain to each other when they're trying to call. And when someone wants to reach the Queen, it has to go through, I think, 20 people and reaches the most senior guy who's like this sleepy 80-year-old guy who has the authority to connect someone to the Queen. All of those people lost their jobs. Every single one of those people, right? And if you told them that this would happen to you, they wouldn't believe it in the beginning. But it happened. And no one at that moment could figure out what they would do. You know, you had a 20-year-old woman and an 80-year-old man. Their skill sets must be completely different from one another. And you cannot predict what they could do in the future. And neither could you tell them and make them understand the kind of jobs we have today in 2026. I mean, try to explain to that 80-year-old man the concept of an OnlyFans account, like a girl on OnlyFans who's making millions of dollars. Try to explain to him the concept of what we're doing right now, and the fact that we can broadcast this to the entire world. And this podcast can be more famous than a prime minister eventually going live on Facebook or on Instagram. Like, so much has changed. And for those guys, it was impossible to even fathom the kind of jobs we have today. What I think will happen, as you mentioned earlier on this podcast, is that humans have always been great at adapting. This is going to be the hardest round of adapting that we've ever done because it happens so fast. But I feel like we can always try to guess what will happen next, but it's incredibly challenging to do so. I can give you another example. This one, I can even try to have emotions about it, but it's almost 100% going to happen. Robotaxis are going to be released very soon. I think Elon's already releasing them.
Yeah.
I think you guys may agree with me, but in 10 years' time, can we all agree that all cabs and Ubers and everything will be just robotaxis? Like,
sure.
Probably no humans operating them at that point.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, well, I mean, cabs still, even after Uber came out, like cabs still kind of exist, but like, they're very, they're not very used. So yeah, I think it's a thing where it's like 90. Maybe if you want some luxury, and this I think will be true in general. It's like if you want to pay for some if you want to pay more for some luxury experience, you could get like a human to drive you around.
Yeah, that would be like the most expensive service.
Yeah, but yeah, I agree that like 95%, 99% are going to be robotaxis.
Yeah, so in my opinion, there has to be a replacement for all of those people who are driving these cars right now. Ubers, taxis that you mentioned are still around, but we may not know what that job is now, and it may be impossible to even try to guess what it is because we'll have to wait and see what we'll come up with.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I totally agree with that, and I sympathize with that whole thing, and actually kind of like worrying about like my identity as I don't know. Well, at the time I was a physics graduate student, so like who I was would be like, oh, I'm a physicist, or I'm a physics student, and like thinking about that identity being disrupted by AI is part of what like launched me into this direction of like technology like 10 years ago, because I found it to be like so kind of disconcerting and troubling, and has led to like sort of like a decade of soul searching. And that is part of why like I think when I'm thinking about the future, there are some things where like nobody has any fucking idea what's going to happen. And then there are some things that I feel fairly confident about, as long as like, humans are, there's not some extreme scenario like, humans are wiped out. And these I sort of think about as like islands of understanding, or like islands of sort of certainty. And that's part of why I started with the relationship thing, because I'm confident that like if humans are still around, the relationship between a mother and son or whatever is still going to be like, pretty much just as important as it is today.
Yes.
Like just as it was like, you go back, a couple hundred years, and that relationship was like really important. So that's part of why I started there. But because with the work one, yeah, you're right. We don't know what jobs are going to be. And I think in some cases there will be new jobs, but I also think there's going to be a lot of, and this is one, there's like lots of things, there's lots of like side effects of AI where even if the future in a lot of ways is better on sort of like measurable kind of like income, goods are cheaper, there's going to be a lot of these like sad things that happen, like like college students entering the market. And I think that there will also be like people who they lose their job and they're not able to adapt, and they become depressed, and then they become addicted to opioids or something. And they're like, they were a trucker and they live in middle America, and they had an identity. It's like, oh, I drove trucks so I can provide for my family, and that is meaningful. And now they're like an alcoholic. Like they're getting a $3,000 check a month from the government or whatever, but like they didn't have to work for it. And I also share your skepticism, or the sentiment about universal basic income or high income. It doesn't solve it. Clearly, I think something like that is going to need to, like, we're going to have some part of that, but we need to have more if we want it to be like a healthy society. Because I think one of the things that about status and all these things, like one of the underlying principles is like, can you make your position in life, can you improve your quality of life according to however you think about quality of life? Can you improve it through your own efforts? Can you move up? And like we've seen what happens in societies where like that mobility is taken away from you. Like that's sort of how things function in communist societies, right? Where it's like, you know, in like the Cultural Revolution in China or something, like, you know, doctors and professors, they're forced to be farmers, right? And it's depressing as hell. I mean, setting aside all the other bad parts of communism. So there is something about UBI that smells like communism. And there's going to need to be like, but I do think that, you know, meeting people's basic needs, like physical needs, like that is an important sort of like base level. But on top of that, there's going to need to be some mechanism by which, if for a lot of people if it's not the normal job, there's still some way that they can do useful or important work and then sort of improve their own station, because I think that is a fundamental need. And like meritocracy is you know, some amount of that is really important, because not only can you gain, but you can also lose if you don't. And like having skin in the game is really important. If you don't have some skin in the game, then yeah, just lie on your couch. Then you end up in this scenario where like people are alive, but they're, you know, binge eating Doritos and watching Netflix, and like their needs are met, but it's just a sad existence. They don't have to do anything.
I think that's that's a scene in WALL-E, no?
Yeah, they're just
like just obese humans on these robotic arm
with
chairs.
with a VR headset on their head.
Yeah. Sounds like a Black Mirror or WALL-E episode.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say WALL-E. It's funny to think about like that Disney movie having like, but it kind of nails a version of dystopia.
Yeah.
Which I think is similar. I always get Brave New World and 1984, I think, is the one where there's the surveillance state, and Brave New World is when there's like the drug called Soma, which like everyone just takes this drug and they feel good and it pacifies them. And so that's like that WALL-E is like a version of the Soma dystopia, where like people are feeling good, but there's kind of no meaning because you don't have to work for it. It's like a fake. You know, that's part of why like people, when people would consider, you know, the feelings you have if you're on drugs to be somewhat fake, because like you know, you're not feeling amazing because you're, you know, having a great date with your partner. You're feeling amazing because you kind of like just hacked your biochemistry. And it matters like which, and there again, like the conscious feeling might be very similar, but one of them we would call fake, and we actually do care about which one is which. But yeah, I don't know how that's going to shake out. I don't think anybody does. I think partly for the reason that you suggest, like it's really hard to predict what those new jobs are going to be, and like you couldn't have done that in the past, like you were pointing out, and we also can't really do that in the future. Like you can look ahead a little bit, but the faster things are changing, the cloudier it is when you look into the future. You know, like even we can say things that'll be around in 1 year, but yeah, as soon as you go out like 5-10 years, there's no Uber drivers and no taxi drivers, but those people, we know those people will still be around, so they're gonna need to do something. But it starts to get very cloudy, like foggy, you know, very, very soon.
Yeah, and then we're gonna have like a robot, each one of us, for ourselves. So you take the world's population, add a robot for each person, and the robots are going around. And then those robots are going to have real skin on them, because China's already manufacturing realistic dolls. They're just going to put them on the robots of Optimus and all that. So we'll be living a very Blade Runner-esque world. So Blade Runner, they had that, right? Because you can't tell who's who. Yeah. You can't tell if someone's a human or not. We'll get to, I'm pretty certain now with what I'm seeing, we're going to get to that. And I definitely am going to see that. I think it's going to be, I'm optimistic about it. Again, when we watch...
Blade Runner is kind of dystopia, actually. It is. You can think of the world where we have the robots and we are living in prosperity, actually. So
Yes.
where the explosion hasn't happened, and we are coexisting
Yes.
in the same world.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, just don't get an AI girlfriend.
Yeah.
No.
They're gonna kill you every time. Like every time there's a movie with an AI girlfriend, they kill you. Like I just watched Companion on HBO Max.
I haven't seen
It
that.
starts out. Yeah, it's a new movie with
Companion.
robot girlfriend, but it's also like the people know. There's kind of this weird thing where like the people know that they're robots, but like they don't, like nobody tells the robots until that they're robots, so they don't know. Some of them figure it out, but yeah, they kill everybody.
She looks pretty though. If that's the robot, she looks pretty.
Yeah, they're always, well, that's the thing. They're always, the robot girlfriends are always like hot, and
Yeah.
They don't complain, and I don't know. You like there's this scene where this guy like sleeps with her, and then he like rolls over on the bed, and he's like, "Good night, like go to sleep," and then she like powers off.
Oh shit.
That's like, I guess some guys would want some version of that, but the problem is they kill you every time.
Ex Machina was like that. Ex Machina
That was like
like
the girlfriend.
Yeah.
But
Ex Machina was a good film. Was a really good
Machina
film.
was released
too early. Too early. They should have released it now. Nobody understood it when they released it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to rewatch that. That reminds me, I need to do that this weekend. But there was also a movie where like Megan Fox, I forget what this called. There was one where Megan Fox was a.
I know, with the Italian guy, right?
Megan Fox.
Yeah.
What was it called?
Yeah, but she goes really psycho. So anyway, that's just
Subservience.
Subservience. Yeah.
I think it's subservience. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So every time that goes south.
Well, I think we should do something. I think we should plan another conversation in a couple of months. Depends on how fast AI is going to move, where we can come and fact check everything we just talked about today. Because we made a couple of predictions about how things could be in the future. And I believe the best way is to have this conversation again and then look back at some of the clips from this episode and then try to see where we were right and where we were wrong.
Yeah. Except my prediction is that if you get a robot girlfriend, you'll be dead.
Yeah, then you won't be.
It's too late. Yeah. We won't.
I will be coming as the only host.
Farhan and I will be like,
That prediction worked out.
You'll have a robot version of me here with all of my memory downloaded in. So you'll still have me. It just won't be me.
Yeah.
But
humanoid robots is a whole can of worms.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna have to get into that. There's still a lot of stuff that we have to talk about, and like I said, I think we should definitely have another conversation just about the stuff that we couldn't talk about today, and also to let some time pass by to see exactly how things move. And I think that will help us in the next conversation figure out how much of the stuff that we talked about actually happened, how much not. And of course, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of surprises
along the way.
But all in all, we wanted to say thank you so much for giving us your time. This is a lovely discussion.
Yeah. No, it's been a pleasure. And look forward to that next discussion.
Same here, man.